You are Locked On Braves POSTCAST, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, your team every day.
And hello and welcome into the Braves POSTCAST. Grant McAuley and Jake Mastroianni with you after what was a very profitable day for the Atlanta Braves. A great weekend in Kansas City. Even if the weather wasn't always cooperating, the Braves were able to deal with the elements and whatever else the Royals were able to throw their way, including some late runs, and come out of Kansas City with a sweep after a 5-4 comeback victory on Sunday. A lot of great stuff to talk about here on the POSTCAST. But before we do, I want to remind you to subscribe here on YouTube to Locked On Sports Atlanta. Make sure you hit the bell to get notified whenever we drop an episode, and make sure you subscribe to Locked On Braves wherever you get your podcast. Jake, a lot of good stuff to talk about from Sunday, and some good stuff we're going to be talking about that is in our very near future on Monday. Let's begin with the game, though, and let's talk about Vaughn Grissom coming through in the clutch, coming back to the big leagues. Pretty good first series back for him.
It was, and look, I tweeted this out. I loved the at-bat that he had there. A young kid, thinking maybe he tries to do too much there in a big situation, but he takes the first two pitches, gets ahead in the count, gets a pitch up really down the middle, but shoots it the other way for that big go-ahead hit. So, look, he's impressive. We know what he can do with the bat. The only question is, what can he do defensively? Can he continue to grow there? But, still to come up first series of the year and come up with some big hits, it's just, goes to show you, I think, how mature this kid is at the plate in the field.
Yeah, and the Braves know Vaughn Grissom. They like Vaughn Grissom, and they want to see him succeed. And really, to your point, it's going to be about going out there and playing a good shortstop. And after the first, 3 or 4 innings of the first game of the series, I felt like he pretty much was able to settle right in there. And there wasn't so much focus on him either at that point. You knew he was going to hit a little bit, or at least you hoped he would, because you saw him do it last year. And that's what he was doing in the minor leagues. And I think he's been able to flash a little bit of all of those things. We'll talk a little bit more about Vaughn Grissom, but before we get too far in, let's take a look inside the box score of this one. A 5-4 win for the Braves, who score late and take it from the Royals to complete the sweep. Game number 16 of the year. Braves now 12-4. That's the best record in the National League. We'll talk about that more later as well. And as you might imagine, if you got the best record in the NL, you're sitting at the top of your division as well. Braves love that. 5 runs, 7 hits, 1 error, 4 men left on for the Braves. Royals, the exact opposite. They're 4-12. 4 runs, 7 hits, an error, 6 men left on. Nick Anderson, the winner in relief. Scott Barlow took the loss, allowing the late heroics by Vaughn Grissom and Ozzie Albies. A.J. Minter locked down his third save. Game lasted 2 hours, 21 minutes, 22,040 paid to see it. This was start number 2 for Kyle Wright as well. We wanted to see some progress, Jake, I think from the first start, where a big pitch third inning really just took him out of the running for going any deeper in the game against Cincinnati. Some things just kind of went sideways on him. I thought he was able to go out there and battle looked pretty good. Pitched into the 6th inning, 5 2/3, 3 walks. That's probably not what he wants, but he was able to kind of grind through. 4 hits, just 2 earned runs, 6 strikeouts. What did you make of the 95-pitch effort from Kyle Wright in start number 2?
Yeah, I was really encouraged by this start from Kyle Wright. Yes, he had the hiccup in the 3rd inning once again. It almost seemed like it was going to become that mental hurdle, but he was able to get out of it. And, that's something I touched on in the last start. There's that ground ball to Ozzie. It was a tough play. I don't know that he could have made it, but if he makes that play and you get out of that inning, then, perhaps he settles in and does what he did today. And he fortunately got out of that jam in the 3rd inning. And then he did go on to pitch into the 6th inning, almost completed 6th inning. So I thought it was a very, very encouraging start for Kyle Wright. That curveball was really good. He had 10 swings and misses on that curveball, which is just a great pitch for him. So really loved what I saw from Kyle Wright. Hopefully we get more of this going forward, just continuing to get better, become more comfortable with his stuff. Look, you can make all the spring training starts and you can make all the rehab starts you want to, but, he is still just kind of getting his feet wet into the season, getting reintroduced into the season. So, again, it may take him a little bit, but he even said it after the game. He feels like he's there now, and I do too. I thought this was a very good start for Kyle Wright.
Yeah, when I talked to Kyle before he came back and made that start against Cincinnati, he really felt confident that, physically he was where he needed to be. Now, does that mean he won't have stuff to adjust and things that he's going to go into a start, maybe doesn't work for him, and he's got to figure out a way to get through against major league competition? Well, of course, that's part of the deal. But I think that Kyle Wright has proven, especially last year, building on his success late in 2021, both in the minors and, of course, in the World Series. Lights don't get much brighter than that, but Kyle really showed, I thought, all through 2022 that he has really figured out, like, the battle that goes on in between pitches, during an inning, and getting through the challenges. He just doesn't seem to let stuff snowball as much. Doesn't mean he's not going to make a mistake, have a bad inning, give up some runs, walk a few batters. That stuff's going to happen. He had a play in that third inning where he almost hurt himself. Really, it could have been a much worse inning because he wasn't able to get an out on a bunt play by the Royals. But he seems to just do such a great job, I guess, maybe compartmentalizing and figuring out his way to get through the troubles that he might run into in a given start and give his club a chance to win.
Yeah, you remember the old Kyle Wright. I mean, that was the issue. He'd have that one inning where things just went sideways and got out of control, and he didn't know how to get out of it. And honestly, that's what happened in his first start. So again, that's why I thought it was so big in this one. He ran into that trouble again in the third inning, but this time he's able to get out of it. And all that he's been through now, like you said, there's no bigger stage than the World Series. And for him to come in and do what he did, he knows he can get it done. It's just getting back to that place, getting that confidence back. And I do think it was a little bit of a mental hurdle for him just getting back there this year and getting out of that third inning. But again, once he did, you saw him kind of settle down, trust his stuff, and become that Kyle Wright that we saw last year. So yeah, he knows it's in there, and I'm glad we got to see part of that in this start. And again, I just think he'll continue to get even better.
Yeah, and I think that Kyle can really build on his successes, and there are a lot of successes when you go back and look at his 2021 that catapulted him into the breakout year last year, and I would expect more of the same for a guy who I've referred to time and again as kind of a glue piece for this rotation. He may not be the one that leads them in ERA or strikeouts or, a lot of the other stats that just really jump off the page, but he found a way to win 21 games last year because he routinely was able to go out and give the Braves quality starts and pitch well and help them win baseball games, and you need guys like that on your staff, and Kyle Wright, I think, is a great one for the Braves. Good to see him back in. Another big return is coming, though, for the Padres series in the form of Max Fried. We're going to talk more about that a little bit later. Before we do, though, I want to tell you about our friends over at Game Time, because buying tickets to your favorite events should not be stressful. Game Time is a fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the local sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With deals on last-minute tickets and a best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start thinking about all the fun you're going to have at your event. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Now, as we look inside of the Braves bullpen that came after Kyle Wright, really only one big mistake in this game, and unfortunately for Michael Tonkin, he was made to pay for it. A game-tying home run in the seventh inning. Overall, I feel like Tonkin is a nice piece for this Braves bullpen. Maybe you just feel like you're trying to kind of manage things as you go along. If you're Brian Snitker, give different guys opportunities, not overwork certain arms, keeping in mind you still don't have Raisel Iglesias, you don't have Colin McHugh. By and large, though, I think this bullpen's been able to answer that test. Tonkin did give up the two-run homer. Nick Anderson came in, restored order. A.J. Minter was able to come on, convert another save. I feel like, and maybe it's an obvious statement when you sweep a series, a lot of things went right for the Braves, and in the background of all the runs that were being scored, which of course we'll talk about here in a moment, there was a lot of good work out of this bullpen.
Yeah, there has been. And as you said, been shorthanded. So a lot of these guys have been called upon to pitch in roles they probably weren't expected to. I mean, I think the fact Michael Tonkin went back out there for another inning, I think that tells you the level of trust that Snitker has in him. Now, didn't come through. I think he made a mistake throwing that slider. Obviously, I don't think he meant to leave it up that much, but he had so much success with that fastball. Maybe just a mistake pitch there and a good swing by Vinny. But yeah, I mean, I just think that shows you the trust that he's earned so quickly with Brian Snitker. The fact that he was sent back out for that inning. But yeah, a lot of these guys got it done. Nick Anderson, has suddenly become the setup man for the Atlanta Braves with all the injuries that they have. And then A.J. Minter, obviously, what he has done for the Braves and been so good over the last several years now. So the bullpen, yes, they've been overly taxed, they've been injured, and they have stepped up big time for the most part for this Braves team to help out in this win streak.
Yeah, Vinny Pasquantino with the two-run homer for the Royals that tied the game up. But let's talk about offensively speaking. I know we touched on Vaughn Grissom already. He had the hit to drive in the run, but how about the guy starting the rally, the guy with two more hits, the guy who had a great series against the Kansas City Royals? I speak of Ozzie Albies. We're seeing line drives all over the place, line drives out of the park, had the home run, his third of the year, the double to get things going to spark that rally in the ninth inning for the Braves. I'm as encouraged about Ozzie Albies, and I might sound like a broken record from the last couple of games, but I'm as encouraged about Ozzie Albies as just about anything I saw in the series.
Yeah, if Ozzie gets going here and gets back to Ozzie levels, we're going to think about this series as the one where Ozzie just kind of breaks back out onto the scene. It's a big series for him, and he needed it. I mean, it's been a struggle for him out of the gate for sure. We talked about it yesterday. Not a lot of hard contact, looked kind of lost at the plate,
Yeah.
honestly, at times. But he
Jason.
was obviously more locked in this game, in this series, had the home run. I thought that one was going to get out in the ninth. Wynn doing crazy things out there in this game, but got the double and then the big hit by Vaughn Grissom. So just a great series for Ozzie, one that, again, he really needed to kind of get him going. Hopefully, he's a guy that he can get hot. He definitely has some hot and cold streaks, but when he is hot, he can be one of your better hitters and help carry this lineup. So hopefully we're going to start to see the beginning of that here with Ozzie Albies.
Yeah, it would certainly make the Braves lineup that much more dangerous. We talk about that top three, and I'll go through some of the stats for some of these guys that were once again in the middle of the great stuff for the Braves. Sean Murphy stepping into the cleanup role. You still have questions, I think, in the middle of that order, particularly with no Michael Harris available, no Travis d'Arnaud, Eddie Rosario. You're hoping to see a little bit more out of him. We've seen some signs of life. The Marcell Ozuna project that we're going to save for another time. He wasn't in the lineup today, but some of the other guys who have stepped in there, getting Ozzie Albies back to his pre-2022 levels, that's just going to make this lineup even more difficult for opposing pitchers to deal with. We don't talk about Ozzie too often without talking about Ronald Acuna Jr. Let's do that now. He was 2 for 4, scored a run. He's got 25 hits now. That is second in the National League, 7 stolen bases of the season. Also second in the National League, I believe second in all of baseball as far as that's concerned. His 16 runs scored leads the National League, and I believe just one off the Major League lead. So Ronald Acuna Jr., very quietly, he hasn't hit a ton of home runs here early. He's got 3 of those. He showed off the power in this series, but he keeps getting hits. He keeps getting on base. He keeps running the base as well, and he keeps crossing home plate. This is the kind of season that the Braves needed from their leadoff man.
Yeah, and I love what he did in the 8th inning. 3-0 count against Aroldis Chapman, gets a fastball in, is able to pull it down the line for a double, and then steals third to get there with 1 out. Now, unfortunately, the Braves weren't able to bring him in there, but again, just showing what he can do to spark a rally. He's all of a sudden at third base with 1 out because of his speed and because of his quick hands. So again, he's been absolutely great. I mentioned Matt Olson, not able to bring him in. However, Matt did have a quote-unquote triple in this game that drove in too. So he did have a big hit in this one, the top of that order. Again, those guys just continue to get it done just about every night.
Yeah, you said the wind was doing crazy things, and a Matt Olson triple would certainly qualify as a crazy thing. He was 1 for 4, knocked in a couple of runs, leads the club with 17 runs batted in on the year and among the National League leaders in that category as well. Austin Riley in the hit column again. Just a nice day up and down the order. Yeah, you would have liked to have scored 9 or 10 runs like they did in the first couple games, but they scored them when it counted. And when the Royals were able to battle back and tie it up, Braves offense found the answer late, and they get out of town with the sweep. Best record in the National League, 12-4, as they sit atop the National League East. And Atlanta with its best start overall since the 2013 season. So it's been about a decade since the Braves have started off this fast. That is a great thing to see. Now, of course, they're going to be looking for some reinforcements as they continue this road trip into San Diego. And we have the return of Max Fried on the horizon. So let's talk a little bit about that after I ask you if you have tried out Pro Baseball GM yet. I've asked you about this a lot. I'm going to do it quite a bit here on the Braves Postcast. But as I ask you about it, the big thing about Pro Baseball GM is it allows you to do all the things that a GM, an executive for any big league club, is doing. It lets you manage every aspect of the franchise, play through the season, and lead that franchise and your fans to glory as you build a historic dynasty. But you got to hire the right coaches, scout and draft players, manage difficult personalities, the team's finances, make all those free agent moves, all the stuff that the GMs are doing across baseball. You can do it right here. Locked On Braves Postcast listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise using the promo code Locked On in the game store. Go to probaseballgm.com, scan the code, find it in the app store, probaseballgm.com, Ultimate Baseball GM. Start your dynasty today. So as we look ahead to the San Diego series, I don't know if good news gets much better than this. Braves are going to get their ace back after he landed on the injured list with a hamstring strain on opening day. Max Fried is going to be coming off the IL, starting against the Padres on Monday. We get Kyle Wright back. That's a great thing to see. You've got Spencer Strider, Charlie Morton. They both have looked pretty good so far this year. Bryce Elder's holding down that 5th spot. But, Jake, if you're going to have the starting rotation the way you want it, you got to have Max Fried leading the charge.
Yeah, got to have Max Fried, got to have Spencer Strider. I've mentioned it several times. Those are the two most important pieces of this rotation for me. But, yeah, we're finally, hopefully, knock on wood, going to get to see this full rotation on display this time through. But so glad to have Max Fried back. I know it was a really, really small sample size in his first start, but he looked really good, and hopefully he gets back to that. He's still been able to throw. Snicker said there's really not any limitations on him coming back. He's been able to throw while he's on the IL. It's mainly just been the leg and trying to stay off of that and no running. So, I don't think we probably won't see him throw 100+ pitches, but I think we still will be able to see him go pretty deep in this game. Hopefully that's the case, but love watching Max Fried, one of the best pitchers in the game. So to get him back in your rotation, and the Braves have done pretty well without him, just be another big boost to this team who's already on a pretty good streak on their own.
Yeah, they certainly are. And with Max Fried being able to throw, not needing a rehab assignment, that certainly helps out with the return. He did get some treatment, but being able to continue to keep his arm loose really helped him out. So by the time he got on the mound, tested things out, covering first, fielding bunts, and what have you, Max was able to, just by giving us a little bit of time, keep something that's a small injury from becoming a big injury. And as I talked to Brian Snitker last week, he said, look, we wanted to be cautious with it so that maybe this is the only setback he deals with this year. That's what we'd like it to be. We'd like it to be minor, get him back in there, not push somebody through in the month of April. Particularly, could you imagine Max having to fight a hamstring injury both through that first start and then through maybe a cold, nasty, weather day like we saw in Kansas City a couple of times? I don't think that would have been ideal. So a little bit of caution definitely helps out. And for Max, feeling, I would imagine, about as close to 100% as it can be. He was so efficient in the spring, and to your point, so efficient in his first start. You just hate that he had to deal with this injury, but hopefully he can just pick up right where he left off. It will be Max Fried on the mound against fellow lefty Ryan Weathers of the Padres, game 1 of a 3-game series at Petco Park as the Braves and Padres meet again for the second time already this season. Then we may not see the Padres again until October. We'll see how that all plays out. 9:40 p.m. first pitch at Petco Park between these two clubs. That'll wrap things up on this edition of the Braves Postcast. Once again, a 5-4 win for the Atlanta Braves. They sweep away the Kansas City Royals, and they've got the best record in the National League as they roll into San Diego for a 3-game series, then into an off day, and then a meeting with the Houston Astros. So a big week of Braves baseball is on deck for you. We'll have you covered here on the Braves Postcast on Locked On Sports Atlanta. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube, hit the bell to be notified, and subscribe to Locked On Braves wherever you get your podcast. Once again, a 5-4 win for the Braves in Kansas City to close out the weekend. For Jake Mastroianni, I am Grant McAuley. We will catch you on Monday after the San Diego game. And until then, so long, everyone.